So it's my absolute pleasure now to introduce Sarah Woods. Sarah, can you share your slides, please? Very nice. So great. So Sarah is the BSBI Fundraising Manager, and she's been with us since March. So over to you, Sarah, for your presentation.
Thank you, Jodie. Good evening, everyone. So as Jodie said, my name is Sarah Woods, and I'm the Fundraising Manager at BSBI. And I looked after what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight, the findings of our first supporters survey. So I'm afraid I'm going to be talking to you about yourselves rather than about plants, but hopefully to spread the pain of that, I've included a lot of fantastic photos from this year's photographic competition. So if you have no interest in what I'm saying, then please do stick with me because there'll be fantastic photos coming along with it. But I wanted to start with a very obvious thank you to those who took part in the survey. As you'll see, we were very happy with the level of response that we got. And I'll be giving a quick rundown of what we learnt, but I do want to caveat that this won't be comprehensive, given the amount of people we heard from. It'll be more of a tour through some of the more interesting learnings and responses that we got. I'm afraid I have far fewer impressive graphs compared to Simon as well. But the role of the survey as a whole now that we have the data in and now that we've read through your responses, is to act as a tool and a source of information for all the teams and committees in BSBI in taking the society forwards and in taking the goals of the society forwards as well. And then just to say, if you have any queries or questions that are thrown up by this presentation, we haven't planned to do any questions. I might, if I just see them pop up, might just be able to jump on a couple, but do send me an email if you have any particular interest in anything I cover or have any further questions. My email address is there. It's also on the website and it's also on the final slide. So without further ado, starting at the beginning and then fast forwarding to the end, our aims and our results. So our aim with the survey was to bridge the gap between what we were assuming about membership, what anecdotal information we might have had, or what gut feelings we were running on, and what you, our members and supporters, yourselves could tell us about your experiences of crossing over with BSBI or being a member of BSBI. So it was for a forum for feedback and ideas to help us benchmark where we are at present, with a view to continuing to improve our work and the membership and the whole BSBI experience. And at the same time, we really hoped that the responses would represent a real insight into people's individual experiences of botany and how people want to practice their interest and engage with their fellow botanists. And those sort of core pieces of data were going to really help us know that we were on the right footing when we talk about things like how getting outside improves our mental health, or getting involved with the natural environment can boost people's well-being as well. So following the example of another natural history society and their survey, we broadened it out to be answerable by current members, former members, and also those who had never been members but had come across us in one forum or another. And each category of respondents had a set of questions that allowed comparison where possible, but we also included specific questions such as someone's reason for leaving or what might encourage someone to join. And as you can see from this results chart, we had a great response. Just to talk it through and explain what we've got on the screen here, there's 3 different shades of green there, going from darkest to lightest, showing an 86% response coming from current members, 2% from former members, and 12% from those who've never been a member. The sum total of all of those responses meant that we had over 770 responses, which was fantastic. And 660 odd from current members, 18 former members, and 89 from non-members. And in terms of what that means in terms of the response from our membership as a whole, that response rate from current members is about 1/5 of the total membership, although that has changed since the survey happened. We've added quite a few new members, so in a good sense, that has become slightly less representative, but in a good way, but it is a very good proportion still. And many people took the opportunity where it was offered to free type and to give us more information and provide really good full answers. So just again, thank you for that really broad range of feedback, which was very welcome. But on to the more interesting things about what did we actually learn? How did people feel about BSBI? How satisfied were they? Obviously, these are questions we asked specifically to current members. And at the top here, there's something I'm very happy about, which is a really fantastic graphic that shows that 93% of people responded that they were likely or extremely likely to be a member in 5 years' time based on their current experience. Most people kind of would caveat this with sort of age and health allowing, which was very fair enough. But this was a fantastic return to see. Obviously, there's a 7% there that we want to address, and we want to bring around to share this really positive experience. But I think that was a fantastic first benchmark to set. Just below that, we have the top 5 most important aspects of membership that people said were important to them as members. And you can see their publications, learning resources, contacts with experts at the top in terms of being of key importance. You can also see the charitable connection to the purpose of BSBI is represented there as well. However, we weren't very, we weren't fixated on just asking what was important to people. We also wanted to know how we were doing delivering that at the minute as well. So you can see underneath, that is what that second list is. And of obvious interest here is that the connection to the charitable purpose of BSBI has dropped out of that top 5 under that kind of category of how would you rate the delivery. As nice as it is to see that those things that mean the most to members are being best delivered, it does raise a question for us as an organisation that I'm going to come back to later about just that connection between our charitable purpose and how we're kind of communicating and performing that. But it's lovely to see that people think our events are well delivered too. And obviously there's a longer list of things here that people did really appreciate and did think were being well delivered, but I have had to nitpick and I have gone just in for those top 5. So what might be our kind of summation of this information? These questions are subjective, and as I said, the responses on the whole were mostly positive. There was a maximum of 2% of respondents who thought that any part of membership was being delivered very poorly, which was again good to see, although again worth addressing. But from looking through the data, I think it's fair to say that on the whole, BSBI members are happy with their memberships because they can access quality in the parts of membership that mean the most to them. So that is a very good motivator for all parts of the organisation to work to kind of vie for that attention, whether you're a person who has a specific focus on those high-ranking publications or perhaps wants to advocate a little bit more for website or some of the other parts of membership. So moving on, this is a very messy pie chart here, and I do apologise for that being in a scientific community, but I assure you reading too deeply into what's on your screen is not very important. It's more about how big the wedges are and what they represent. So looking at how individuals engage with us was something else that threw up some really interesting features in the survey. And just to digest it for you, we asked people, when did you first hear of BSBI, to get an idea of the avenues through which people were finding us. Obviously through that, we can know where we are best reaching people, where we might need to work on reaching people, who are our audiences and how are we getting to them. I will admit here, we should have better considered that when we were asking this question of where did you first hear of us to members, that some members would have had to have cast their mind back around 60 years to think of their answer to this question. So I will hold my hand up and say very fair play to those who reminded me of the fact that they might not remember where they first came across us or couldn't remember a time where they didn't know about BSBI. We do see an interesting move here, though, into more and more people finding us through the internet and through social media in the kind of the new digital age that we occupy now. And previous to that, those members that have been with us for longer, there was a more of a historical preference, or more people told us that they'd heard about us through word of mouth from a lecturer to a student, or through a university, a publication, a textbook, or something like that. Those were the more common avenues. So whilst we remain mindful of the fact that the majority of our members came to us in the pre-internet era, there's a need for an awareness now that most of those who are looking to join us are finding us through online channels, and through that are expecting digital proficiency, for us to be doing things like what we're doing just this evening, and having a digital presence and connecting with people online. That being said, though, there is a universal truth that remains that I quite like, which is what is at the top of this slide. So that first stat there, that almost all BSBI members are more than twice as likely to have heard of us from another member than from any other source. And in the modern world, especially following the isolation of the pandemic, I find that very heartening that botanists are telling botanists about BSBI, or members are telling other people that they think are interested about BSBI, and long may that chain continue. So if you do have anyone you know who is particularly interested in wildflowers, tell them about us, because that's how it happens. And below that, I've just included a number of other common themes and topics around the same sort of theme that we saw expressed in the longer form answers to questions about what makes the BSBI experience worthwhile, and what people are looking for through their association with the society. And I think the clue is in the name there to a certain extent, that in joining a society, people are looking for a community or a group of members, of like-minded people to join with in sharing that interest. So quite uniformly, we saw a strong appetite for more local activities to participate in, a keenness to understand the forms of volunteering that are possible with BSBI, how to get involved. People are keen to play their part. And most importantly, there was an idea of BSBI as an organisation that advocates on behalf of botanists and doing botany. So food for thought again, and fuel for action here. And this is just a lovely quote that I thought encapsulated that. BSBI is as much about the people as the plants, although some may disagree. So just to recap, and I'm aware that I do not have too much time here, but to come back to the notion of BSBI as a charity with aims and goals that members are supporting at the same time as accessing these resources, it's interesting to me that the idea is that there is plenty of momentum around BSBI at the minute, some forced by the pandemic, some coming from new appointments, and we'll hear from Julia in a minute. But that it seems very important that we're moving together in all of this. And on this slide at the bottom, I've included our 3 strategic goals from our current strategy that spells out the intentions of the society. I won't go into them too deeply, but above that, you can see that the majority of people do feel that they understand the why of BSBI. They understand why we're here and why we're a charity, but that we might need to do a little bit more on spreading the how and the where and what we are doing to move ourselves in that direction. There's a job to facilitate that at the same time as providing those connections and resources. I'd encourage anyone to read the strategy if you want to and you haven't already, but also I'm happy in the knowledge that this weekend of talks will hopefully exemplify quite a lot of those things as well. So some very quick key reflections here. And apologies for not having more time to go into this, but and another apology that volunteered time was something we didn't manage to bring out quite fulsomely enough, I think, in the survey, and I would say that is something we want to update in future editions. Participation, as I was just saying, is very clear that is a direction people want to get involved with the society. That's one of the most important reasons for joining. They want to be doing something, and they want to be making that affirmative action. And lastly, that there has been a huge amount of change going on, and that was really reflected back to us, but that there is a number of opportunities to take the society forward in all quarters, so that we want to seize upon that. So very quickly, in summary, the survey was a real success. Thank you so much for playing your part in that. It's given us a baseline going forwards, and as we all know, in terms of data, that is what we need to be understanding our progression and understanding how things are changing going forwards. For things like demographic factors, that's really important. Also, as I was mentioning, those insights into practical botany. And as an initial piece of work and insight, there's a lot to be positive about, and hopefully future iterations will continue to show the impact of all the hard work that's going on at BSBI, and long may people continue to enjoy their membership. So thank you.
Oh, it was amazing and perfectly timed as well. Very, very impressive. Thank you, Sarah.